This just in. Breaking news! Our top story tonight, Venezuelan President Maduro has asked banks to not only use, but also mine his new cryptocurrency called Petro. A currency based on pegging itself to an underlying asset? I'm sure that's something the community will embrace. Next up, more discussion about Ethereum's controversial EIP 867. Personally, I'm against the improvement to release the funds because Parity holders have been some of the strongest holders of Ethereum for quite some time. Also tonight, cryptocurrency hardware mining giant Bitmain has announced that they made over $3 to $4 billion in 2017. That revenue actually exceeds their closest competitor, NVidia, and I'm worried the violence between the two companies might get rather graphic. And finally tonight, over 34,000 Ethereum smart contracts might be in jeopardy. Smart contracts? Or like fell apart contracts? I think that's a new low here on the channel. But what am I supposed to do? I mean, how do you take technology and turn it into a joke? Other than Ripple. Sure, maybe all of the jokes in the intros haven't been fire, right? But they've been good. We haven't had any bad ones. Bitcoin Super is finally set to fork tomorrow. Experts say that's super, go fork yourself. Okay, maybe we had a couple ones that weren't real total winners, but in general, they've been really good. That's right, Fitty, it's your Bitcoin. And I hope you parlay, cause it's your Bitcoin, and we're gonna move over to the next scene. Thanks, Thomas. Thanks. Wait, shit, we're still doing the news. All of this and more tonight on Crypto News. We're gonna kick the video off today by doing something a little bit different. Now, you're probably aware I'm not the biggest fan of technical analysis, but I have been taking a look a little bit at some charts lately, and I found something kind of interesting that I wanted to show you. Buy Bitcoin. Very interesting to see the charts indicate exactly what I was thinking there, and I'll make sure to keep you updated as we find out more information about the future price. Also, I am not a financial advisor. If you buy Bitcoin, it has inherent risk. This channel is for information and entertainment, blah, 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 blah. Moving on to our top story, Venezuelan President Maduro is adding in Petro as a cryptocurrency that is backed by Venezuelan oil reserves. Now, the idea is that one individual coin represents 1 barrel of oil. So it's sort of like Tether in a way. Basically, it's tied to something, and so its value should be always equal to that unit. Now, unlike Tether, which is tied to the dollar, this is tied to oil. So as oil prices fluctuate, thus the price of the currency will too. Now, obviously USD does move some, that does change as well. But you tend to see slightly larger swings in something like oil than US dollar. From the get-go, there have been a lot of people worried about what exactly Venezuela is trying to do here. Now, there are sanctions imposed on Venezuela, and so some people are worried that they're using a cryptocurrency to try and circumvent those sanctions by using that instead of their oil. According to the Commodity Future Trading Commission, they stated that they will take a closer look at the coin if U.S. citizens are defrauded. An executive order signed by Donald Trump states that U.S. persons that deal in the prospective Venezuelan digital currency may be exposed to U.S. sanctions risk. So essentially, the government hasn't made like an official statement here, but it's totally possible that if you engage in buying and selling of this currency, that you're in violation of the sanctions. So I would probably recommend as a U.S. citizen to stay away from this. And I'm actually going to also recommend for not U.S. citizens to stay away from this. Another issue here is this is absolutely a way that the Venezuelan government is trying to raise capital by selling these tokens representing value for fiat currency. Now, the problem here is that the Venezuelan government for a long time has had corruptions at up to the highest level. And so citizens are uneasy about what this means for the future. And frankly, they're uneasy right now in the present. So, it doesn't look very good for Venezuela as to why they're doing it and what they're doing. But let's take the global economics and Venezuelan economics and government out of the equation, and let's just hone in and focus on the technology around the currency. Now, the thing is, if it's tied 1-to-1 with their oil reserves, where 1 coin equals 1 barrel of oil, then it's pretty simple. It's like USDT. They can issue it whenever they have more oil. So that seems pretty simple to me. Wait, there's more here. There's more going on here.
Mine.
Maduro asks Venezuela's banks to mine. They're gonna mine it. What? Mine? This is very confusing for a variety of reasons, but the real question is, why would the token want to be mineable at all? And why wouldn't you want the government to be the one that's processing the transactions, running the nodes? Why would you have third parties involved in mining your one-to-one pegged currency at all? That just makes no sense to me. Also, Maduro is asking for the banks to develop mining farms. But like, here's the thing about mining. It's going to come down to who gets the cheapest electricity, who has the best hardware, who has the best way to mine. And oftentimes mining becomes a little bit centralized because certain players can buy in bulk and basically have the equipment that they need to be successful. So you're essentially asking the people of Venezuela, or the banks of Venezuela, to compete internationally to mine a currency that is pegged to Venezuelan oil reserves. It just doesn't make any sense at all to me. It also seems complex to me to try and have mined coins equal the amount of oil that they have. Now, I'm not really up to date on what Venezuelan oil reserves are like, or if they're growing, or whatever is going on here, or if they found all of it. I have no idea. But how are they planning on having the mined coins equal the amount of additional oil that they find or that they have, or if it's an estimate? Like what does it even represent, and how are these things being mined? It just sort of seems to me like he's like, yeah, we're going to have mining. It's like, okay. Now what? When it comes to Petro, I would stay away. I think we're going to see more and more people come out with negative things to say about this as the story develops, and I'll make sure to keep you updated. Next up, a proposed Ethereum improvement protocol would increase the centralization of Ethereum. Now, there have been a lot of funds frozen due to buggy smart contracts that have really caused some serious problems, especially for projects like Parity, where over $400 million at the time were frozen. And so there's an increased demand of people that want to figure out a way to unlock these funds. The question becomes, what level of centralization on the Ethereum network are we okay with? Do we want it so that if there's a problem with the way that someone coded their smart contracts and money gets stolen or frozen or whatever it is, do we want the network to step in and say, no, that's not okay, we're going to change this, or we're going to unfreeze these, or we're going to move these, or we're going to save this? Because then all of a sudden, you're looking at some serious power. And I know that we saw that before with the way that Ethereum forked off to be what it is today when the DAO hack happened. But, it still does raise some additional concerns. Personally, I think that when you look at something like centralization, it's important. Sorry, I'm receiving some news. We've got breaking news here on the show. Apparently, we have live footage of Parity wallet holders. Let's take a closer look.
Let it go, let it go. How you want with the wind and sky.
You can definitely see where they're coming from. This is a difficult question, though, because it sucks for these people that had money there, and then all of a sudden, because of someone else's mistake, everything is frozen. But what's the correct solution? Do you really want to make it so that when there are issues, the network will bail you out? I kind of don't think so. This is one of the reasons why I've always been more of a fan of Ethereum Classic over Ethereum. I just don't hold any Ethereum Classic because I don't think that there are enough people actually using it. Let's take a quick look at the proposal itself as explained by Coinbase. High stakes, Ethereum's fight over lost funds explained. I like high stakes. What is EIP 867 anyway? In Ethereum software development, an EIP, or Ethereum Improvement Protocol, do you call it an IP? Like in Bitcoin, a BIP? I have really no idea. It would be great if someone could tell me. In Ethereum software development, an EIP, or Ethereum Improvement Protocol, is the process by which code changes get accepted onto the platform. To add new features to Ethereum, software changes are executed in the form of platform-wide upgrades, sometimes called hard forks, but to get to this stage, proposals are subject to a rigorous acceptance process consisting of roughly 4 steps. First, if a developer has an idea for a software change, it should be presented as a pull request. If the EIP editors find the request to be technically correct and in tune with Ethereum philosophy, they can merge it as a draft onto the next stage. Once merged, software implementations in the form of various Ethereum clients such as Geth and Parity can occur, and if they work, the proposal can be finally accepted. Once accepted, the platform can be updated with the EIP, providing the various nodes running Ethereum software to decide to upgrade. Now, what makes EIP 867 a little bit different is that it's not a proposed change to the software itself, but rather the framework for which software upgrades happen. This has caused a lot of controversy within the Ethereum community because it's a great question as to what the real philosophy of Ethereum is going to be. Are you going to say that we're going to let the market just be what it is? Or are you going to step in and save money like you did before with the DAO hack? And it's a kind of dangerous line. What if it's $1 billion of Ethereum? Then do we save it? Or what if it's 100 million? Is that not enough? Where's the line? Who decides that line? These are all great questions that are really kind of essential to the future of Ethereum as a currency, but also as a platform. Despite my distaste for the level of centralization in Ethereum, I still do own a bunch of Ethereum. It's one of my bigger holdings in my portfolio because I do think it's most likely to remain dominant as a platform for decentralized applications. But at the same time, I do worry about these issues, and I think it would be great if the Ethereum founders could maybe come forward and talk a bit about what specifically needs to be the roadmap for Ethereum in terms of what they're going to do when funds are lost, stolen, frozen, or whatever other problems can happen with the network. While we're on the topic of Ethereum, I also want to talk about this article I found from Bitcoin.com, which I always take with a little bit of a grain of salt. But it talks about how 34,000 Ethereum smart contracts are vulnerable to bugs. This is one of the biggest problems with coding on the Ethereum platform. If there's even one line of code that is wrong or allows for vulnerabilities, then potentially people can either steal money or freeze money or cause massive detrimental effects based around just simple lines of code being wrong. Now, I'm not a coder. I can't say anything specifically about what that's like. I have talked to multiple people who know more about Ethereum and have explained this to me. And that's kind of scary. It's kind of scary that these vulnerabilities can exist across so many different smart contracts on the Ethereum network. Now, if you have very good code and it's audited rigorously, then you can probably avoid these problems. And I would certainly be careful when you're looking to maybe invest in projects coming up that use the Ethereum network, or if you're just using the network itself. I think you should always be careful with the code and making sure that things are done correctly. It's also worth noting that while there are many contracts with potential issues that could be exploited, and that's not even to say that these all are or that they're all the same magnitude, but rather that just there are 34,000 contracts which could potentially have problems. Most don't have problems, right? Most of the smart contracts on the network function as they should and are helpful and useful. So while you could always focus on some of the negatives and some of the drawbacks, and I would say that having a few percentage of smart contracts be vulnerable is not good, but the majority are working and functioning fine. I do think one of the cool things is that this does create sort of an efficient market, which is as the amount of money that can be stolen increases, the demand to steal that money increases as well. So hackers are more likely to try and hack large sums of money than small amounts. And as Ethereum becomes more valuable, there's more incentive for them to go after that money. While that has a short-term negative repercussion for the people that are exploited or hurt, and I feel for those people, it does have sort of a long-term value in that it secures Ethereum's network at a smaller price point than it would be down the road. You know, we're going to see a lot of people try and figure out ways to steal money. And if they're doing it all now, well, what about when Ethereum hits $3,000 or $5,000 or, $10,000? I'm not saying that those things are going to happen, but what if it does get to that point? What if cryptocurrency does grow and now all of a sudden these problems are 10x as big in terms of money? So while Ethereum is a huge, huge currency, it's the second biggest, I also think that the market sort of works itself out and is fairly efficient in solving these problems. Moving on to our final story tonight, estimates have come out about Bitmain's 2017 revenue, and some people are predicting it to be as high as $4 billion. We don't know this for sure because Bitmain has declined to comment, but if these estimates are even close to true, that is an enormous amount of money for them to have made in just 1 year, selling hardware for computers to be able to mine Bitcoin. There was a bit of controversy in 2016 when it was discovered that some of the mining machines that Bitmain was selling had some code written in where essentially they could shut down the miners through their own control, no matter who they sold them to. Just a simple code could really shut down people from being able to mine using their equipment. And obviously this was something that people weren't too happy about. Bitmain did comment saying that we never intended to use this feature on any Antminer without authorization from its owner. This is similar to the remote erase or shutdown feature provided by most famous smartphone manufacturers, which sounds nice, but it's a little worrying to be like, okay, we're going to sell you mining equipment that is important for you to have control of, because otherwise, how do you make money? But we're going to leave a little code in there just in case we want to shut it down for your own protection. And you know what? Maybe that's something that people would like. But they should get to choose. They should get to decide if they want that or not. Or if it's going to be part of the hardware, then they should have the option to not buy it and go to a competitor. It shouldn't just be a secret thing you don't know about. Regardless, this industry is booming. NVidia did $3 billion of revenue last year, and Bitmain might have done up to $4 billion. So it shows you, for some perspective, if the biggest graphics card company for computers, mainly for gaming, but really all kinds of different things, and also some degree of Bitcoin mining, if they did $3 billion and Bitmain did $4 billion, it just shows how much the demand has increased for mining equipment, for Bitcoin, for probably other altcoins as well. This is an industry that has exploded, and we're only going to see it grow as cryptocurrency grows too. That's going to do it for me. Hit that subscribe button, join the team. I'll see you guys again soon.